Chapter 19. How long had it been? Minutes, hours? It felt like I had been here for hours, tied to this bed while Xander took his sweet time drinking from me, though the fact that I wasn't dead yet told me that it hasn't even been near that long. Everything felt hazy, whether it was because of the blood loss or pure fear I wasn't sure. The only thing I could really process was the intense pain in my side and the tight pressure of Xander's grip on my legs. The rest was just a blur, like none of my other senses wanted to experience this. I barely even felt myself fall against the bed, my body apparently feeling too weak to keep it tense anymore. Although, I did hear a small noise come from Xander as I felt him remove his fangs from my side. I didn't even have time to feel grateful before his eyes met with mine, now being an even deeper red than before. A devilish smirk rose to his face as he removed his hands from my legs. "Now, we don't want you passing out now, do we?" he asked, partially breathless. I didn't respond. I don't even think I could. I just stared at my blood that was currently staining his teeth. He slowly shifted himself so that he was hovering above me, one of his hands reaching towards the thing that was holding my arms. Nico would freak out if you were gone that long, and knowing him, he would come to me first. He chuckled as the thing around my arms loosened, freeing them, and that would be a bad time for both of us, don't you think? I nodded to the best of my ability, hoping that he would let me go faster if I did. Good. Now, remember, not one word to Nicholas. He mocked evilly. Again I nodded. Xander's smirk just grew. Next thing I knew I was back in the hallway, struggling to stay upright as my head pounded. I barely even realized that I had fallen onto my knees. Xander's amused chuckle brought my eyes to where he stood by his doorframe. "Have fun getting back to him," he said. "Oh, and don't worry about those files, I'll bring them to Nico myself tomorrow." I heard him laugh once more before he closed the door, just leaving me there. I just sat there, staring at the door as I tried to recollect my thoughts. A warm wetness snapped my head down towards my hips, seeing the trickle of blood falling from the wounds. Xander didn't stop the bleeding. I quickly covered the area with my hand, a new panic running through me. How was I supposed to hide this from Master then it was still bleeding? I shook my head, trying to calm myself down. I could stop it by the time I got there, right? Yay. I slowly pushed myself onto my feet, stumbling forward against the wall as soon as I got up. Walking without support didn't seem like an option given my current condition. With one hand on the wall and the other against my side, I began walking towards Master's room. Part of me hoped that he would be there, while the other part of me didn't. I wondered if he even realized I was gone. What if he was mad at me for leaving? My eyes nervously glanced through the halls, making sure that no one was walking by or watching me. I stopped walking once I made sure no one was in sight, my legs trembling as I further leaned against the wall. Maybe I shouldn't go back until this stops bleeding. I looked down at my partially blood-stained hand, a lump forming in my throat as I tried to figure out how I was going to hide all of this. Why did this have to happen? Why did this happen to me? Today? Right after something finally good happened to me and now I might not even live to be able to use it. I fell further into the wall, my entire body trembling at this point. Master's room almost seemed out of reach. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to will myself to keep going. A short scream exited my lips as I felt myself being grabbed and carried. The air around me seemed to rush past me before I opened my eyes. I was back in Master's room, sitting on the edge of his bed with my feet dangling over. My eyes widened when I saw him standing a few feet in front of me. He tried to catch his breath as is unusual. Chapter 20. Nico's POV. The room went still as soon as she spoke his name. I felt a low growl escape my throat as I dropped Chloe back onto the bed. Of course it was Xander. Who else would it have been? He would be the only one with the guts to do it and the hope that he could get away with it. I almost found it funny that he thought he was going to get away with it. I quickly turned on my heels, storming my way to the door. I was going to throw that son of a bitch out of his own window for touching my stuff. She's my pet and yet he felt the need to take my stuff. What I wasn't expecting was for Chloe to bolt in front of me and hold herself against the door, preventing me from exiting the room without moving her. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked. She was scared, terrified even, so what the hell was she doing getting herself into more trouble? Her body was shaking, both from fear and from overexerting her body. She shouldn't even be trying this given her current condition. She didn't even answer my question, just fearfully barricaded the door. I could move her, but I really didn't want to make her condition any worse. "Please, don't," is all she managed to say. My eyes furrowed even further. Why the hell would she want to keep me from beating the everlasting hell out of Xander? If anything, she should want me to. "Get out of the way, Chloe," I warned. She didn't. She was being brave because she was petrified. She flinched as I took yet another step forward, squeezing her eyes shut. Please Nico. If you're mad, just take it out on me. Hurt me all you want, but please don't tell Xander," she begged quietly. Her words caught me by surprise for a moment. What the hell could Xander have done that was scaring her more than her own master does? I'm perfectly aware of how capable he is of terrifying humans, but she isn't his pet. He doesn't control her, I do, so what is she so afraid of? If I were to force her away from the door, judging by how heavy her breaths were right now and how hard her heart was beating with a lack of blood, she would probably pass out from panic. And that's pretty much the last thing I needed right now. I sighed, kneeling down a bit so I didn't look as intimidating. "Chloe, look at me." She did eventually, fear still stricken in her eyes. "Tell me what he said to you," I spoke a bit calmer. He had to have said something to her to make her act like this. Actions alone couldn't have caused this. He obviously threatened her with something, but I wanted to know what exactly he planned on putting her through. Her eyes went wide before they shifted to the side like she was trying to decide whether she should tell me or not. "That's an order," I added. She inhaled a long breath. "He said that he was going to kill me if I told you what happened." It was my turn for my eyes to go wide. I honestly don't even know why I was surprised. That's totally something he would say. Especially to my pet. He was fully aware of how pissed I'd be if I found out, but he knew that I'd find out eventually. And of course, he just had to take advantage of my already anxious little pet. I know that it's not my place to ask, but please, don't I won't. She was surprised by my words. "Really?" she asked, relief very evident in her voice. I just nodded. "I won't tell him I know. Not tonight at least. She doesn't need the stress of that added onto everything else that's happened to her today. And he can sleep as soundly as he would like thinking that he got away with it. I'll just simply bring it up another time. Unlike Xander, I actually have some sort of self-restraint. But there was no way I was just going to let him get away with this unscathed. He could try to kill her whenever he wants, but he'll only be trying in vain." Chloe visually relaxed against the door as her adrenaline wore off. "Thank you," she spoke quietly. I only nodded, standing back up to my original height. She did, however, shrink back when I stepped in front of her and knelt down there. Chapter 21. Nico's Pav. I awoke to the sound of whimpering. Specifically, Chloe's whimpering. This wasn't really an uncommon occurrence, in fact, it almost happened every night. Usually, I could just ignore it and fall back asleep, but she was laying the other side of my bed this time, so it was kind of harder to ignore. I turned over so I was facing her. Maybe I should just wake her up this time. It would probably be easier than listening to her all night. I could see that she was scared, the way she had herself curled up. Not to mention the look she had on her face. "Son. She spoke quietly in her sleep, "please, don't." Her body became tenser. Damn it, of course she would be having a nightmare about that. A small whine came from her as she gripped the sheets, tears beginning to show between her eyelids. I let out a small groan, pushing myself up to make my way over to her. I kind of found it odd that she was just now crying about this whole thing. She didn't once shed a tear about it until now. I gently crawled over top of her, trapping her underneath me so she wouldn't scare herself so bad that she fell off of the bed. Knowing her, that was completely possible. I slowly knelt down, trying the calmest approach first. "Chloe," I spoke quietly. She seemed to react to my voice, but she didn't wake up. "Master." She sniffled in her still asleep state. My eyes furrowed a bit at that title. "Help," she finished. Oh great, now I was starting to feel bad. I lightly touched her arm with my fingers. "I'm right here, Chloe, just wake up." My eyes widened when she quickly grabbed onto my shirt, pulling herself closer to me. I didn't even think before my hand made its way to her back, holding her there. She relaxed a bit in my grasp. Well, this was unexpected. I could feel her heart thundering against my chest, but her whimpering had calmed down. I guess this works too. Her body was warm against mine, so I guess I was getting something out of this. I slowly laid myself back onto the pillows as gently as I could, keeping her body close to mine. Apparently, I didn't do it gently enough, because her eyes shot wide open right after I did. Her breaths were heavy as she tried to figure out what was happening through her groggy mind. Her body tensed up as soon as her eyes met with mine, finally noticing what she was doing. She quickly pushed herself back, distancing herself from me the best she could without falling off of the bed, her fear reappearing. "I'm so sorry," she began, quickly wiping her eyes. "I didn't mean to do that. I tuned out her meaningless apologies, instead focusing on the fact that she was holding back her tears. It wasn't hard to tell that she was doing it, but why was she even doing it? It's not like I was going to punish her for it. Oh yay. My jaw clenched as I remembered. Of course she would be. That asshole petmaster whipped her God knows how many times the last time she cried. I cut off her rambling, hooking my hand behind her back and pulling her against me once again. If this calmed her down earlier, then it should work now too. She was just still for a moment, like she was trying to figure out if there were bad intentions in what I was doing. "It's fine, Chloe. You didn't do anything wrong." Again, she sniffled as I felt her body slowly relax. Her hands tentatively found themselves against my shirt again. Yet, she still refused to let her tears fall. She just looked so helpless, trying to hold everything together despite what she went through today. "I know I should have asked you this earlier, but, are you okay?" I asked. I kind of felt like a jerk for not asking. I just patched up her side and went on with it. I guess I was too mad at Xander to even care. She just gave a slight nod. That was a lie, but I'll let it slide. I'm not just talking about just physically. Her grip tightened ever so slightly on my shirt as she bit down on her bottom lip. "I'll take that as a no then." Still, despite all that, she still wasn't crying.